Hello, let's have some fun getting started programming the classic Macintosh Toolbox with CodeWarrior Pro 4 on a 68K Macintosh. If you have a 68K Macintosh with a CD-ROM drive, like a Quadra 700 with an external SCSI drive, or maybe a Quadra 610 with an internal SCSI CD drive, then you can download the CodeWarrior Pro 4 ISO image and burn it to a CD and follow along with this tutorial. Otherwise, we are going to be using a 68K emulator called Basilisk 2. I like to use this packaging of the emulator, which comes pre-installed with a bunch of stuff and is very convenient to use. You can find it in the link below. Once you have it, first you're going to want to run it, and it's going to boot into System 7.6, and that's going to create the preferences file, which we are going to need to edit to mount the CodeWarrior ISO in the emulator. So then quit the emulator, and you're going to want to go to the Go menu and choose Go to Folder, and go into your library folder, inside the Application Support folder, inside the System 7 folder, and then you will see the preferences file. You can open the preferences file in TextEdit, and if you scroll to the bottom, you'll see where the disk that comes bundled with the emulator is in the preferences file. And so we'll just make another entry for disk, and we will go find our CodeWarrior Pro 4 ISO image in the Finder, and we will drag it into TextEdit in order to paste the path to the ISO there. Then we'll save that preferences file, launch System 7 again, and as you see, the ISO mounts on the desktop just like it was a CD that you inserted into your drive. And if you're following along with a real Macintosh, insert the CD into your drive and you'll see it mount. Then we're going to want to install CodeWarrior Pro 4. It's pretty quick. And once it's done installing, go ahead and go into the folder and go into the IDE folder and launch the IDE. It starts without any windows showing, but you can tell that it's launched by the menu bar changing and the CodeWarrior icon in the top right of the screen. Then we can go to the File menu and go to New Project, and we have some template projects that we can choose from. So we can choose C++, and then the 68K Toolbox 1, and we'll save it at the root of our hard disk. And then we can just go to the menu and run it. And there we go. We have our Silly Balls example that comes with CodeWarrior running. And if you take a look at the source file, you'll see that classic Mac Toolbox programming requires a number of steps to initialize the toolbox. Each manager that you want to use, you have to initialize before using it, and that was because the Macintosh in 1984 came with 128K of RAM. So if you didn't need a particular manager or a particular part of the toolbox, then you didn't have to initialize it, and you wouldn't incur the cost of whatever RAM that particular part of the toolbox needed to run. So you can see the parts of the toolbox that we have to initialize for our application, and then you need an event loop, which will check for the mouse button and you need to handle the other events, and we will just draw repeatedly. And this application example just draws ovals of random colors all over the screen. And there you go. That's how you can get quickly started learning how to program the Macintosh Toolbox on System 7. And as for where to go from here, the canonical reference from the mid-90s was the second edition of Inside Macintosh physical books that Apple produced containing all of the documentation. However, they're all in Pascal. So you're going to have to, if you want to program the classic Mac in C or C++, you're going to have to learn Pascal conventions in order to use that documentation. It's fairly easy to translate between the two languages, or you might actually just want to learn Pascal. Anyway, it's pretty easy to find classic Mac programming books, and they can be fairly cheap if you look around a little bit at a used bookstore or on eBay or something like that. I hope you enjoyed this video and have fun programming the classic Macintosh.